In this video, I will introduce you a PDP framework that can be used to teach the receptive skills, listening, and reading. PDP is an acronym for pre, during, and post. Now, in a visual, this framework will look like this in your lesson, the shape of a diamond. The first P stands for pre-reading listening. This is the stage of the lesson before the learners read or listen to the text. The D in PDP stands for during reading listening stage. So this is the stage of the lesson that happens while the learners actually interact with the text. The last P stands for post reading and listening. Now this stage happens after the learners have read or listened to the text and have shown comprehension of it. Now, the shape represents the amount of time that should be used for each stage. The pre and post stages are the shortest, and the during stage is the longest, as you can see. So, this means that the during stage is the most important because it is the stage in which learners use the skill, in this case, reading and listening, right? Which is the focus of the lesson. Now, before we dive into the details, let's first look at how this framework fits into a full hour lesson plan. Now, let's go over the typical information included in a lesson plan using the PDP framework. First, you will need to provide information about your students and class, right? The grade level, number of students, their proficiency levels, and other relevant details. Next is information about the lesson itself. If you're teaching in PK12, you'll need to include state standards, the subject area, topic, learning objectives with action verbs, and any materials you will be using. While these two sections can be more detailed for things like at TPA or formal evaluations, for this course and for your personal use, I recommend keeping it simple. Now, after that, you will outline the lesson sequence. Now, you will have warm-up activity, how you will engage students and introduce the lesson, and this usually takes about 3 to 5 minutes. Then you will follow the PDP framework, pre-listening, pre-reading. Now, this section can be combined with warm-up activities. And then you will have during listening, during reading. Now, here you will list activities where students engage with the content. And then you will have post listening and post reading, activities that help students reflect and apply what they have learned. And finally, you will include an assessment like an exit ticket to check if your students have met the learning objectives. Now, in the pre-reading or pre-listening stage, the main goal is to help your students get ready for the material so they're not going in without any background or context. At this stage, you want to either activate or build your students' background knowledge. And here are some strategies that you can use in your classroom. One strategy is predicting. You can show them the title, some pictures, or key vocabulary from the text or audio. I personally love using visuals, especially for English learners, because visuals really help students make connections. Now, after that, you can have them make predictions about what they think the reading or listening will be about. And this helps them engage more actively with the material. Another strategy is vocabulary preview. You can introduce the keywords they will encounter, and you can make it fun by doing quick activities like matching words to definitions or using the words in sentences or connecting pictures with words. So this way they are better prepared to understand what they'll read or hear later. Brainstorming is another great option. You can have students brainstorm words or ideas related to the topic. So, this helps them start thinking critically and make connections before they dive into the material. So, there are plenty of activities you can try at this stage. For example, you can have your students close their eyes while you play music related to the topic or ask thought provoking questions to get them thinking. So the choice of activity really depends on your learning goals and the content your students will be exploring. And these strategies make sure your students are better prepared to understand and engage with the content during the reading or listening stage. In the during listening or during reading stages, the focus is on guiding your students as they engage with the material. At this point, they're either listening to audio or reading a text, and your goal is to help them stay focused and understand the key points. At this stage, you can guide your students to use listening or reading strategies to improve their understanding of the material. When it comes to reading, two strategies that are really helpful are skimming and scanning. Skimming is when students quickly read through text to get the general idea or the main points. So students are not focused on every single words, but rather on understanding the overall message. And this is great when they need to grasp the overall idea or gist of the material quickly. Scanning, on the other hand, is when students are searching for specific information within the text. So they're looking for keywords or phrases without reading everything in detail. And this is especially useful when students need to find specific facts or answers in a longer text. For listening, students can also use strategies like listening for the gist or listening for details. Listening for gist means focusing on the overall meaning of what they are hearing, not worrying about understanding every single word. So it's very similar to skimming, right? So students are trying to catch the big picture or main idea. Listening for details is when students focus on specific information like key dates, names, or facts to answer detailed questions. So, teaching your students these strategies can really help them become more effective readers and listeners. You are giving them the tools to process material more effectively and focus on what's most important depending on the task. The post listening and post reading stages are all about helping your students reflect on and solidify what they've just listened to and read. So, this stage is where they really deepen their understanding of the material. After listening or reading, you want to focus on activities that allow students to process the information and connect it to their own thoughts or experiences. So, for example, you can have them summarize what they've learned in their own words, either in writing or through a discussion. So, this helps them organize the information in their minds and ensures they have grasped the key points. You can also ask them to answer comprehension questions, discuss their thoughts in pairs or groups, or engage in creative tasks like drawing or visual representation of what they've learned. So, we have just taken a brief look at the PDP framework, which is a commonly used structure for teaching, listening, and reading. Please keep in mind that even though listening and reading skills are referred to as receptive skills, they are by no means passive. Students must actively engage with what they hear or read in order to construct meaning, right? This requires them to process the material, make connections, and use their background knowledge to fully understand the content. In addition, it's crucial that we teach students some of the strategies, tools that help them think about the language as they use it. Strategies like skimming, scanning, making predictions, and listening for the gist or details allow students to approach reading and listening more effectively. And ultimately, these strategies will give students the skills to better comprehend or interact with the materials independently.